You've been piecing together what happened during that 2-hour raid. First off, tell us what you know as to what exactly happened from the information you have from people you've been speaking to inside of Syria.
Well, actually, it happened in a similar way as it happened when the Americans killed Baghdadi 2 years ago. It's a Special Operation Forces operation on the ground with helicopters, and they put all the means that they could use, which tells us since it began that we are talking about a high-profile personality that they were tracking and that they tried to kill. We suspect also that they reached him actually because we know that the prison break of Hasaka that happened a few days back, some commanders of the Islamic State escaped. And we suspect that he established contact with those commanders who escaped, and this is the way that he was followed and he was found. You have to know that Atme is on the border with Turkey, meaning that for sources on the ground, we know that the dominant Islamist group there on the ground, Hayat Tahrir Sham, HTS, was part of the operation in a way since they blocked all the roads leading to the place where it was happening. On the other hand, when you talk about...
So what you're saying is that there are Islamist groups in the area, some with Turkish backing, but it doesn't mean that they back ISIS, is what you're saying.
No, HTS are fighting ISIS. They are killing them, not even putting them in prison. They are also fighting Al-Qaeda and imprisoning them. 48 hours ago, HTS captured a Tunisian prominent Al-Qaeda figure and they put him in jail. They have even French citizens in their jails. But we have to know that such a military operation on the Turkish border has to be coordinated with Turkey. It cannot happen if there is no coordination at one point with Turkish authorities. And we know that in this fight against the Islamic State, Turkey is playing a role rather on the side of the Americans and not on against the Americans.
But the sworn enemy of the Turks are the Kurdish-led forces. So did they this time say, well, okay, go on in and let the SDF do their job? Because we heard Joe Biden profusely thank the SDF there.
Yes, but it's not the same fight. The SDF are fighting in eastern Syria. They fought against the cells of the Islamic State in the prison of Gwiran and in other regions of Deir ez-Zor, of Raqqa. Here we are talking about Idlib. The presence of the Islamic State there is very limited, with some figures hiding out in Idlib, but the fight against the Islamic State there is done by another Islamist group. The Kurdish factions, the SDF or the YPG, don't have any presence in Idlib, actually. But this is why I was telling you that the prison break might have given some leads that permitted the Americans to reach Abu Ibrahim when he established contact with some of prominent Islamic State leaders that managed and succeeded of escaping a few days back. So this is the plus that was maybe given by some intelligence on the ground in SDF YPG areas.
So we're looking at the map now of Atme with the refugee camp that's the displaced people's camp, right, which is right next to it there. Tell us more about what happened when you look at that map.
Well, actually, when you look at that on this map, it didn't have it neither in Atme, neither in the refugee camp. It's actually in between. It was one house that was particularly targeted. The family that moved in this house, now we know that it's the family of Abu Ibrahim al-Qurashi, moved there in December. A few weeks back, the house was rented by a Syrian to another Syrian. So they didn't know who was actually in the house, even the people who were renting the house to this most prominent jihadi figure, Abu Ibrahim. And when you ask people there, of course, they didn't know. And this is what, actually we have to understand that this person, Abu Ibrahim, was a very secretive. We didn't even hear him once. We didn't even see him once since he took after Baghdad.
You mean on their propaganda channels?
Never. We never heard him. We never saw him. You see? So he's very secretive, and this is the way he functions, actually.
Just one question, because at the outset we heard our correspondent Kerevan Gorgistani quoting officials in Washington as saying that this was a raid that was planned for months.
Of course.
So the timeline of it being planned for months and the prison break of 10 days ago, how do they mesh? How do they...
Because you follow leads. You know, you follow leads for months, and some leads could work, some leads could not work. And then you have the final lead, the topping point that tells you, okay, I'm sure you are sure that he's there, and it's worth it to put up such an operation. Because when you put up such an operation for a man with his family, with children, You have to assume the consequences, and you do not operate such an operation in a hostile territory, even if it's handled by the HTS, which is an Islamist group, on the border with Turkey. You have to handle it with Turkey just like that, on a simple hint. So they work on it for months, and then when they have the final lead, the final dot that fills the picture for them, they go for it.
But Wassim, can I just ask you a question? Is it really plausible that the Americans would have shared that intelligence with HTS before carrying out an operation like that?
Not directly, but at the end, at the tipping point, of course, because I got information saying that HTS was even touring the positions of its fighters, telling them, you don't move, you don't leave your positions for the whole night. So they knew that something was happening.
Despite the shooting that was going on. Yeah.
Maybe they didn't know exactly what was happening,
yeah,
but they knew something was happening.
Yeah.
And HTS today, if you want to go a bit into details, is working to get international recognition.
Wassim,
and getting international recognition goes through this kind of arrangements.
Yeah. I want to get the reaction on that from Manan Suleiman, but first, let me ask you, Wassim Nasr, you have had images of the actual raid itself that have come through to you. Where are those images from?
Yes, I got some images that we got last night. Maybe we can listen.
Are they from social media?
I got them directly from someone, and they spread on social media later.
All right, let's take a listen.
We have to listen to it, yeah.
So a source gave you those images
exactly.
Late last night.
What we just saw, we heard the helicopters, we heard the shooting back from the house, and what we heard at last was someone calling for people to surrender, telling them, you leave the women, let the children leave, and they'll be safe, in Iraqi dialect. This is interesting. So since yesterday, we knew that the target was Iraqi, because of this megaphone telling them in Iraqi dialect to let the women and let the children go out.
Al-Qureshi, a secretive man, you say. What do we know about him?
Well, actually, we know that he was born in a small village, Mahalabiya, next to Mosul. He was born in 1976. He's the son of a preacher. He was a preacher himself. He was in the ranks of Al-Qaeda even before the Islamic State. He had a prominent role in Al-Qaeda as a judge, Islamic judge. Then he joined the Islamic State later in 2006 when it was established. He knew the prisons in Iraq, American prisons, in 2008. We don't know when he was freed. Was it a prison break? Because they happen in a very regular basis in Iraq at the time. We don't know how he was freed. We know that he was very, very close to Baghdadi. And last time we suspect that Baghdadi was seen in a video back in 2018, we suspect that the person next to him, even if he was blurred, was Al-Qurashi.
And he was the man, too, who provided the ideological underpinning of the genocide against the Yazidis.
He was part of it, yes. Yeah. He was part of it. He was the man. He was one of the men who said that it was legit, between brackets, in there following their dogma, because they had a big debate inside the Islamic State. Was it legit, of course, all the brackets that we can put around this, to do this or not? And he was one of the person that he said, yes, you can go for it.